Popular history often dates the birth of New York Latin music to the 1970s salsa explosion. However, the roots of that movement reach back half a century earlier to a period of migration that began long before the first conga drum hit a Manhattan stage. In 1917, the United States passed the Jones-Shafroth Act. This single piece of legislation redefined the boundary between the Caribbean and the American mainland. By granting American citizenship to Puerto Ricans, the U.S. government opened a door for mass migration just as the island's agricultural economy began to fail and the labor demands of World War I intensified. Thousands of pioneros left the island to fill the labor shortage in the factories and shipping yards of East Harlem. They were the first generation to navigate the tension of being American citizens in a city that largely viewed them as outsiders. These migrants stepped off the steamships into a stagnant economy. The Great Depression had turned New York into a city of breadlines and freezing tenements, a far cry from the pearl of the seas they had left behind. Living as legal citizens but social outcasts, the pioneros were confined to isolated ethnic enclaves. They faced the daily complexity of holding a U.S. passport while being treated as foreign laborers in their own country. To survive this displacement, they used music as a social technology to construct a community from scratch. The rhythms they carried in their luggage became the binding agent for a new neighborhood. One of the primary lifelines of this early community was Plena. It was a rhythmic, percussion-heavy style that had matured in the working-class Afro-Puerto Rican barrios of Ponce. Plena was designed for the street. Its core instrument is the pandereta, a handheld frame drum that allowed musicians to carry the rhythm into alleyways, onto stoops, or through the crowded cars of the elevated trains. Because of its focus on lyrics and accessibility, Plena earned the nickname El Periódico Cantado, the sung newspaper. The songs functioned as a rhythmic newswire. Vocalists reported on local crimes, documented community fires, or openly mocked visiting religious dignitaries, using the music to speak truth to power. As the migration reached New York, Manuel Jiménez, known as El Canario, saw the potential to move this street sound into the city's commercial dance halls. As the historical record shows, Jiménez modernized the genre by adding pianos, horns, and a double bass to the raw percussion of the panderetas. This instrumentation shift gave Plena the volume and harmonic depth it needed to compete in a professional market, ensuring the diaspora remained connected to the day-to-day realities of the island through song. While Plena provided the street-level news, a more formal musical tradition was taking root through the work of Rafael Hernández. His approach combined disciplined musicianship with the symphonic complexity of a trained composer. In 1917, Hernández was recruited by James Reese Europe into the regimental band of the 369th Infantry, the famous Harlem Hellfighters. This gave him a rigorous education in the brass and woodwind traditions of the era. Hernández served in the trenches of France, playing proto-jazz for European audiences alongside African-American musicians. It was a cross-cultural exchange forged in the reality of wartime service. He returned to a New York gripped by the Depression. In 1929, he composed Lamento Borincano, a track that would become the unofficial national anthem of the Puerto Rican people. The song has three narrative levels. First, the jibarito, a mountain farmer symbolizing authentic Puerto Rican identity. Second, an economic commentary. The farmer finds the city market empty, reflecting the agricultural failure driving migration. Third, the island personified as a dying Eden, channeling the diaspora's grief. This symphonic lament resonated in every tenement of East Harlem. It provided a shared language for the loss and resilience that defined the early migrant experience. By the end of the 1930s, the community in New York had established a distinct Nuyorican identity. They were a people forged in the tension of living between two flags, using their music to navigate a new home. A major shift occurred in 1930 when Don Aspiasu's recording of El Manicero became a million seller. This triggered a national rumba craze, proving that there was a massive American market for Caribbean rhythms. As the music migrated from small barrio social clubs to massive midtown ballrooms, the ensembles grew. Small acoustic trios were reinforced with heavy brass sections to provide the sheer volume needed for larger audiences. The pioneers of 1917 to 1939 provided the structural and emotional framework for the genre, while later decades would bring new influences from Cuba and the jazz world. The foundation of the sound was firmly planted in these early barrios. Through the rhythmic reporting of Plena and the symphonic sorrows of Rafael Hernández, the diaspora built a community that would eventually speak to the entire world.